Welcome back to the USF Oracle Sports Podcast, where we talk everything USF athletics. My name is Mithil Vyas, and I am the sports editor for the USF Oracle. Today I'm joined by Tobey, Blair, the assistant sports editor.
Hello.
And we are also joined by Zahir Nelson, the man behind the camera again.
Microphone's off.
Oh, there we go. We got the microphone going.
There we go.
So today we're going to be talking the UNT preview, obviously this Friday. And we're also going to be joined by a special guest in a little bit, Mr. Koki Riley himself, the AP poll voter we've been talking about these past few weeks. Toby, why don't you get it started with UNT?
Oh my goodness, do we have a matchup? We have, South Florida has been they have understood big games, but as big as every game has been, this one is in conference. Maybe the opponent isn't a Florida or a Miami or a Boise State, but it has a lot more weight for South Florida. This game, alongside USF's bout with Memphis on October 25th, will ultimately likely decide who ends up in the college football playoff for the group of five. And so North Texas, you're traveling to Denton. North Texas has pulled out all the stops, the canceled classes, buy one get one free tickets. They understand the how huge this matchup is, and South Florida does too, of course. So now you're in a spot where, of course, you're traveling to Texas against an undefeated team, one of the highest scoring offenses in the country. They have a great freshman quarterback, Drew Mestamaker. He's throwing for almost 1,300 yards so far this season. Great running backs, great receivers. This is going to be a matchup, perhaps to end all matchups. No, it's not.
Interesting.
They'll play next week.
I was going to say, that's an interesting take.
They'll play next week. They'll play the week after.
I like where you were going with it. Maybe not at the end there.
Should I join the WWE? Did I hype that up?
I mean, definitely. I was ready. I am ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Interesting game we got ahead of us.
Interesting game. Obviously, South Florida is now ranked again. Number 24 this time. Obviously, there's another American team that South Florida does face in a couple more weeks. Number 23, Memphis, which Toby, you'll be there. So
I will be there in Memphis, live from Memphis.
That would be interesting. Head out to our website to check on that when that comes around. But North Texas.
Not looking too far ahead. Right now, we got North Texas.
Yeah, North Texas. So, talking to Golish today at his weekly press conference, he emphasized, and obviously after the Charlotte game as well, he emphasized that he was disappointed, even though the Bulls did win that game over Charlotte. They won big. They won, was 28 points. I mean, I can see where he's coming from. Obviously, they turned over the ball 4 times, 3 of them by senior quarterback Byron Brown. And talking to Byron today as well, I asked him, I was like, what do you plan on doing to clean up sort of those mistakes? And he goes, just watch film and do what I do. Byron, I mean, he's not known for as many words usually when people talk to him. I mean, but on the field, he's been definitely showing out. Almost 1,200 yards passing, the leading rusher for the Bulls, which Golish kind of jested about today, how he wants the running backs to step up. Outside of, obviously, Cartevious Norton, who just got injured with that neck injury. Prayers up for him. But I think having sort of that running back room that South Florida is known for is kind of going to make this matchup more, I'm trying to think of the right word here, more anticipated maybe?
Interesting, perhaps.
Definitely. I mean, definitely more offensively minded. Obviously, the Mean Green have a new defensive coordinator. It's his first year. They've been lights out, 11 takeaways on the year. South Florida obviously coming off a game where they gave away the ball 4 times. And I think that's something that was kind of harped on the entire press conference is you have to clean up the takeaways. Golish was like, fumbles obviously need to be worked on, and they can definitely be preventable. But interceptions, he was kind of lenient on. He said mistakes happen, and it's human. While you don't want them to happen, they can't happen. But fumbles, he didn't seem too happy about.
Yeah. Well, that comes down to an interception can ultimately be a result of a good play on offense and a better play on defense. So sometimes you can just get a route jumped. Sometimes you can just get hit while you threw it. Byram had an interception where he just got clobbered while he threw the ball. It doesn't go anywhere near its intended target, and it just happens to be somewhere, So sometimes that can happen. But fumbles are just you're not securing the ball like you need to. And I think Golish really harped on that of like, if we continue to drop the ball, here's the thing. Sorry, Charlotte. If you give Charlotte 4 more opportunities on offense, you can win that football game, and they did. If you give North Texas 4 more opportunities on offense, that is not going to be a good night for the South Florida defense, obviously led by Matt Harris and Jalen Schuler. They've kind of had a knack of forcing turnovers of their own, but you can't have that against North Texas. It's not going to happen. Like that's not a game you're going to win. You're not going to give Mestamaker 4 more chances to score against you and win that game. It's just not going to happen. So that is something that Golish hammered home of we need to clean this up. This cannot happen, because when you start to play teams like Memphis, like North Texas, giving them extra chances takes away your chances, of course, but it can massively swing momentum and it can massively swing scores, and that is something that they will be very, very on top of cleaning up, I feel.
Yeah, and high praise for obviously Drew Messamaker from everyone that spoke today. Byron Brown, Mac Harris, and Alex Golish. Obviously, Byron kind of compared him a little to himself. And, I mean, Messamaker's a true freshman here. Or true freshman? True freshman. He's one of the two. He's a freshman. I know that.
Hasn't played a lot of football yet.
I think he's up to his 6th or 7th start now.
No, it's his 6th. They're 5 now.
Yeah, but he played in the bowl game last year. That was his first official start.
So his 6th or his 7th?
But Golish said it was his 7th, but he also said the entire press conference today's Wednesday.
He did say that. I saw that.
I thought that was interesting.
Okay. You get started when you're ready.
Yeah. Where was I at? Oh, yeah.
Mestamaker's good at football and shit.
Mm-hmm. So I think, obviously, Mestamaker, this is his around 6th start. I mean, not a lot of playing time, but, I mean, he's come out lights out, if I had to say something. I mean, obviously, like you said before, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, and that's something that South Florida's defense needs to do. And, I mean, you talked about it a little bit earlier. Mac Harris, he's been kind of that decisive force for the Bulls defense. Obviously, 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles on the year. And I think him leading the team alongside Jalen Schuler, who was injured for, I don't want to say a majority of last year, but a good chunk of it. I think having them both together kind of sets apart the South Florida defense and gets them pumped and primed for this matchup.
Yeah, and I think that, and this is something we will touch on before North Texas, depending on where the conversation is about the Group of 5 playoff and the American Conference playoff, we will probably also touch on it against when they play Memphis, is, and not to be, you will hear about it later, North Texas is certainly 5-0. They are. They are undeniably an undefeated team. They also don't exactly have maybe the strength of schedule that a team like South Florida does, or even a team like Memphis, although.
They do not. Actually, I have it right here.
Do tell.
North Texas, 132nd in strength of schedule.
Eek.
USF, 26th in the nation. Memphis, 127th.
Yeah, and so this is the thing. This is kind of what we're getting at. And it's been something that has been kind of hammered home of ultimately North Texas beat Lamar.
Jackson?
Nope. It's college apparently somewhere. They beat Lamar. They went to overtime against Western Michigan. They beat Washington State, went to overtime against Army, and then beat South Alabama. Again, is North Texas a bad football team? No, they have a great offensive team. They gave up 38 to Army. They gave up 30 to Western Michigan. I have an inkling that South Florida might be a little bit better than Western Michigan. And so this is the thing where it's like, is this going to be for Golish and company a message of there are levels to this, or is this going to be North Texas's coming out party, and they're playing a ranked team, they are at home. They could make a statement here, or they could South Florida could show that there's kind of levels to this. It'll be an interesting game. They have a lot going for them. Mackenzie McGill is a great running back. He has 318 yards in the season. Caleb Hawkins right behind him has 307 yards on 42 carries. He's averaging 7.3 yards a carry. That is a ridiculous number.
That is crazy. I didn't know that.
That is a ridiculous number. Insanity. But that is against what some might... And so actually, the funny enough, the beauty for North Texas going into the second half of the season is if you can pull off a win against South Florida, you then play UTSA at home, Charlotte, Navy, UAB, Rice, and Temple. They have one of the easier schedules in the American Conference.
Definitely.
And so if you can beat South Florida, really the two teams you have left are UTSA and Navy. Other than that, these are not quality wins like a South Florida or UTSA or a Navy or a Tulane would be, or even a Memphis. Like these kind of higher teams within the teams in the upper echelon of the American Conference. And so it'll be very interesting to see, because I've seen a lot of discourse about this being maybe UNT's most important game this season, because if you lose, it takes all of the wind out of your sails. You're not undefeated. You don't necessarily really have a shot at making the American Conference. Sure, you have a shot at making the conference playoff, but not the college football playoff, the conference championship, not the college football championship or playoff, because unless South Florida goes and just loses a few more games, you kind of have this team who has beat you. This team who looks really good. They look good on paper. They look good on the field, and you lost to them. It'll be very interesting to see how seriously they take this game.
I mean, from the looks of it, their fans are taking it pretty seriously.
Oh my. Twitter is a fun place to be.
Boy,
X,
oh boy.
X, my bad. X is a fun place to be.
I mean, yeah, X is a fun place to be, but also seeing UNT, they canceled their classes on Friday. I mean, it's a night game. I don't know what the reason to cancel classes is. I mean, it was funny enough that it came up when we talked to Golish this morning. Someone asked him, how do you feel about that? And he just gave this perplexed look. Like, it's a 7:30 game. Why are they canceling classes? And he's like, I'm sure some of the guys here would love that too, but it's not happening. No matter the opponent. I mean, I feel like that kind of...
Yeah.
That seeps down to, is this UNT Super Bowl? As we've heard.
It might be, and for good reason, because this win gives them all the ammunition they need to get a number next to their name, to really make their name known nationally. I would reckon more than not that if we're going Super Bowl for Super Bowl, this is probably UNT Super Bowl. Just like UF maybe was South Florida's Super Bowl. I know it was an away game. Or even Miami. 1-1 in Super Bowls this year for South Florida.
Interesting statistic, but I do believe it as well.
Interesting statistic. But it really, for a good reason, is probably, of course, because we're right now, but probably UNT's most important game this season. If they can win this game, I don't know why they couldn't beat a UTSA or a Navy. But if they can win this game, that kind of helps them a lot with the conversation about the playoff and about the American Conference Championship. It'll open up a lot of doors for whatever team wins this game.
And I think obviously whichever team wins this game maybe will go on to the championship, but you also have that Tulane and that Memphis. So you have these kind of four teams that are looking to all make it there. And I think, in my personal opinion, whichever team makes it out of the American will be the Group of Five champion as the 12th team in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's the general consensus around college football right now, is that whatever team makes it out of the American, I mean, what's the other? Old Dominion is the only Group of Five team that maybe has a say.
I mean, people are still saying Boise, but
there's 2 losses. You can't. 2 losses, and one of them to an American team.
Notre Dame has 2 losses.
Notre Dame is Notre Dame, but you know what I mean. Whatever team makes it out of this game has a really good shot to find themselves in the college football playoff, and ultimately, like I said, Old Dominion is the only team outside of the American that really right now seems to have a claim. The good news is that the good news for a team like maybe Tulane is that all of these other teams play each other. So South Florida plays North Texas and Memphis. So what could happen, and it would be very interesting, is all of these teams beat each other, and then it devalues the entire conference as a result. Because if you see North Texas, maybe North Texas loses, or North Texas beats South Florida. So you go, okay, well, North Texas looks good. But then North Texas plays like Navy and loses. Okay, well, now we're kind of interested. But what if North Texas beats South Florida, and then South Florida goes to Memphis and beats Memphis? The math could get very crazy very quickly. So the best way to have no doubt is to just keep winning. That is as simple as it gets. Whatever team wants to make it in, honestly, just, maybe this is some wisdom. Just don't lose a football game for the rest of the year, and you'll be all good.
It's great wisdom. If any coach would be listening to this,
if any athletic staff is hiring, I have some pretty knowledgeable football takes. I'll make sure that your team, whoever hires me, doesn't win another. Nope, doesn't win. Yeah, well, there you go.
Don't hire this guy.
Well, now I'm not gonna get hired. Now I'm done.
Well, there goes your shot.
I almost had it. I was gonna be the coach of UCLA.
Speaking of UCLA, good transition. Speaking of UCLA,
it's too late.
Big win over Penn State.
Big win over Penn State. Very interesting.
Big win over Penn State, number 7. Not anymore. They're out. But we will come back with Mr. Koki Riley, AP poll voter himself. Welcome back to the USF Oracle Sports Podcast. Today we are joined by a special guest, Koki Riley, who is the LSU beat reporter for The Advocate and a current AP poll voter. Today I'm also joined by assistant sports editor Tobey Blair.
Hello, nice to be here.
And also joined by Zahir Nelson, the man behind the camera again.
Oh, hello.
There we go. We got everyone introduced. Koki, if you want to say a few introductory words about yourself.
Yeah, as you said, I'm an LSU sports reporter here for The Advocate, covering football and baseball here at LSU. Been here for, 4 years now, and it all it all happens pretty quickly. I felt like yesterday I was in y'all's shoes. So, yeah.
So did you start as a student reporter as well?
Yeah, I was sports editor at the State Press and at Arizona State for a minute there. Covered ASU, a lot of stuff, a lot of football, a lot of everything. So yeah, I was there, and then kind of got a job out here doing high schools for like 8 months, and then I got the job covering LSU, not for this paper, but for another paper. And then I got this job about I don't know, maybe 2.5 years after getting that one, like 2 years after getting that one. So I've been doing this for a little less than 2 years now.
Sweet, sweet. That's really, I mean, that's really cool. Hopefully, we'll be in your shoes in the future. But something I wanted to kind of ask you: how did you become a voter, and when was that also?
Yeah, that's a good question. Last year was my first year as a voter, and the AP reporter here kind of got me connected with them, and the process here was like our paper kind of has almost like I wouldn't say a designated spot, but we've had the vote or one of the two votes in this state for a while now, I think. Like our columnist Scott Rabola, he's voted on it 13 times, and he's been on the beat for a while and has worked here for a while. Like the person who had this position before me had the vote. Um, so usually the vote for whatever reason stays within our paper. And when I got this position, um, our columnist slash the AP reporter here, um, they kind of approached me or whatever and asked if I would be interested in doing it. So I said yes, and that was before the start of last season.
So you actually caught our attention because a few weeks back we had started and we had looked at all these polls. And one thing that me and Mithil agreed upon was that the AP poll should have explanations. We feel like voters should have to explain their picks. And so we identified you because you, of course, explain your picks in great detail. I think at the basis of the argument over the AP poll, the question generally is do you base it off resume or play? And I want to know where does Koki Riley stand on that divide?
Yeah, to me it's both, right? And resume is even like kind of a nuanced look at it too, right? Because it's like, I mean, a win is a win and a loss is a loss, but like who you lose to, how you lose to them, where you lose to them, like all that stuff matters, right? If it matters in the way we predict games and pick games, it should also matter just as much when it comes to like evaluating how good a team is in the aftermath of that, right? Like circumstance matters. So in terms of like how you play, like I mean, how you win a game kind of matters, right? Like I think like the Indiana, like if you all things like the Indiana win over Illinois is kind of a perfect example, right? Like they haven't really done anything outside of that one game. Um, and then they went out there and they won but they won that game 63-10, right? Like that's crazy. And yes, it was at home, but like given the margin of the score and how we still think Illinois is a good team, like Illinois isn't ranked even despite that. That's why Indiana is like a top 15, kind of like a top 15 consensus team based on literally that win alone. And I think that's like actually right. And I like, yeah, like I just feel like, yeah, like how you win and like the play certainly matters. And like really like it's a vague and it's like a really vague answer, but like my job is to pick the 25 best teams in the country given on a certain week, right? And everyone's going to have like a different way of looking at that and like how to do that the right way, but um yeah, like that's the goal every week. It's not like who are the 25 most deserving teams. It's not who are the 25 teams that have the best resumes. It's not any of that. It's who are the 25 best teams, and that's hard, but that's simply the way I look at it. And I'm going to value things more differently because I look at it through that lens.
So yeah, I understand that. So you would say generally, you I don't want to pin you down here. You said both, but that answer came off to me as very much play, which I would say I probably agree with you there. Illinois,
yeah,
Indiana
it's more
definitely
play
is an interesting
than it's
example.
more, yeah. Like it's more play than just like I don't know, like flat out resume, right? So I guess that's the best way to put it. Yeah.
And then the follow up to that, the more kind of general context is as an AP voter, do you kind of look at teams as they exist in their current context, or are you looking like further back? So like, for example, Florida State with Alabama, They just lost to Miami, but you moved them up a few spots because their win against Alabama is kind of looking better as Alabama is. Then you just kind of add maybe your thoughts on that as to where you stand. Like, do they exist in the current context, or do you have to take everything into account?
Yeah, you take everything into account, in my opinion. Like every week is a new slate because every team, even if the game's already been played, like the way you look at that team changes over time, right?
Mhm.
Well, like that. There are like the only real exception to that is like if there's like a major injury to a key player, right? So like
Florida State fans
if
know too well.
Oklahoma, like I don't know, like the John Mateer thing, right? Where like say like if Mithil was more injured than he was now, and he's going to be out for the next like month for sure, I would like try to remember to keep those games that they won and keep in mind for Michigan and Auburn about about that matchup as like the Mithil actually played in these games, so we're going to value it this way, but for Texas and whoever else they play moving forward, we're going to value it another way because Mateer isn't playing, right? Like they're a fundamentally different team without this player.
Mhm.
So like there's an exception for that, but like for the most part, yeah, like every week it's different when I look at the rankings, right? And like how the quality of a team changes. Um, and there's exceptions to that, like with Syracuse or Oklahoma, but like for the most part, yeah, it's like I think good example of this is what I did at the top of my poll this week, where I flipped Miami and Oregon, which doesn't make a lot of sense on the surface because like Oregon didn't play, should they be punished? Um, well, when your best win is against a Penn State team that just lost to like maybe the worst team in the Power Four, it should be noted, right? Like that's notable. That fundamentally changes the way we look at that strength of victory and the team that they just faced. I know Penn State had some injuries on defense, but it wasn't enough to the point where like you like fundamentally changed the way you look at that result. And then when you look at Miami, on the other hand, they got a pretty good win against a decent Florida State team, right? So
Yeah.
when you factor that in, that was enough for me to flip them because it was kind of close heading into last week, and then after that happened, to me it was almost it was I don't know if it was obvious, but it was clear to me that's what I should do.
So, kind of going on that process that you use to choose your rankings, how does it kind of look like when you're actually doing that? Are you sitting down the entire day after all of the games have been played? Are you watching all of the games? How much time does it usually take you to do it?
See, now this is a good question. Because on like a regular game week, right? So like LSU this week plays not South Florida, excuse me, South Carolina. uh, and that game's at like 6:45. But since you're covering the game and you have to do your job and do the thing that you're paid for, you can't really pay attention to the night games that are happening at the same exact time.
Right.
And if you need to do anything work wise before the game, which for me that's not really the case, but for other voters that may be the case, it's hard for them to watch the other games if they got to do something for the thing that they're actually getting paid for. Like none of us are getting paid to do the AP poll. Like this is a voluntary exercise, so you kind of have to prioritize in that way. And because of that, and with other stuff like in your like life stuff that happens, right? Like what do you got to go get the groceries? What if you plan to date with your girlfriend? What if like there's a million other things that are
Yeah.
happening in life. So it's like to expect to watch every single moment of every single game, and when you only have so many screens and so much time on your hands in general and how you're prioritizing things, it's not going to be perfect, and you kind of just have to accept that. But my process is like on a normal game week where they have a night game, which is usually what happens here at LSU. I'll have the quad box up. I'll watch all those. Take the 4 games that are probably the most consequential for the bowl, and then probably have a game up on my computer as well, and watch all those games. Then I'm usually in transit to the stadium, like sometime during the middle window games, and I'm watching them when I get to the stadium. Sometimes I have to do a little bit of work when I'm there, so that's not like so I'm not watching as perfectly as others maybe. Um, but I get a but I get a pretty decent sense of what happened and who played well and who looked good and who doesn't. Then if there's a night, then like for the window in which the game you're covering is in, it's almost impossible to like actually see exactly what like Bryce Underwood did that day, you know. So because again, you have a job to do, right? And then after all that's done and the post game stories that you have to write and all that stuff, that's when I finally can look back, go through all the games, and then on my little notes app here, I have my rankings from the week before, and then I have like the results of the game next to the team name. So like right now, it's like Miami, and then in parentheses, beat Florida State by this score on the road. And I'll do that for all these other teams, or if they're off, I'll just have off in parentheses. I'll do that for every team before I move anyone around, and then I start moving things around. And that'll take usually at least 2 hours after a game, and if it's a night game, then you're probably up till 1 or 2 in the morning. So, um, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot if you're putting the effort in, which I am. So,
Well, that's
I
good to
think I
hear.
can safely, yeah, at least I can safely say that. And yeah, so yeah,
Thanks for delving into
that's the
your
best way I
process
do
there.
it. Yeah, that's the best. That's the way I do it. And like I know there's no perfect way of doing it because it's just
Yeah.
it's a lot though. Like it's not easy to like keep track of everything and to know that like all right, you're gonna do everything perfectly and view every team the right way, you know. And I also like when I'm making the decision, I'll go back into the if I couldn't watch the game, I'll go back and look at the box score and the team stats and like who won the yardage battle, who won the time of possession battle, and stuff like that. When that can give you a pretty decent idea of what happened, you know, because you can't
I
like
mean,
go back and watch the replay for every game. It's just you don't have enough time, you know.
I feel like I kind of have to disagree a little bit on that point. Just, I know you moved up Miami, but obviously looking at that box score, someone might have seen, okay, it's 28-22. But it
Yeah.
seemed because I watched the whole game, it seemed like Miami was just completely dominant. If
Mm.
you're looking at the box score itself, does that kind of seem like you're not getting the full picture?
I mean, you're not getting the full picture. There's no way. The only way you get the full picture is to do what you just did, which is watch the game, right? And like you're also, I don't know, you're also seeing what other people kind of said about the game. You're looking at like, all right, like also like that game's a little misleading, right, with the box score. And I kind of knew that because of what I heard, one, and two, just like the score, Miami had like a 2 score lead for most of the game, you know. But I also think it should be. I also think it's like it's fair to note and to be like, well, they should have scored. Well, they shouldn't. They should have been better in the fourth quarter on offense. Miami, like they were. Then they had like 19 yards in the fourth quarter or something ridiculous like that. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's beside the point. But like, I just there's no perfect way of doing it. Any of this really. And you just kind of have to like. And sometimes, if you want to learn even more, I'm like, and wonder like, all right, why am I hearing this and seeing this? And you'll go deeper into the nitty gritty of it, right? And you just gotta do the best you can, right? Uh, so it's the best
Yeah.
it's the best way I can say it.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't sound like an easy gig. A lot of college football played on Fridays and Saturdays. Not to pour on you here, but I'm not about your poll, but apparently, according to Zahir, our wonderful guy that runs everything back there, you were placed recently on the most extreme ballots list. What kind of obviously this year has been very interesting for people in the AP poll, kind of getting I don't know what's a good word for that, getting, I'll say, hate on Twitter and stuff for their polls. What does that do for you, like as an AP poll voter? Does that have any effect on you? Does that, like where does that place you as a voter?
I've gotten a lot of hate online. Frankly, it doesn't affect me because I'm not gonna like. take someone's mean words or criticism or whatever you want to call it seriously if I've like never talked to the person or met the person, and I kind of like and like and if you're doing that stuff online to like a stranger that you don't know, and you're just saying like hateful stuff for over like a college football ranking, then like that alone tells me enough about your character to the point where I shouldn't take you seriously, you know? And that's just kind of the way I look at it personally. I mean, but like I'm all, but like I say that, but also at the same time, I'm also like, if you have like a real, if you are like genuinely asking why the heck why did you do this in like a respectful and thoughtful fashion, I will try to respond to you. I can't guarantee it because I'm busy, but I will try to respond to you, or I'll do something like this, which is like like trying to explain my process through this podcast. So, um, yeah, like that's the best way I can. Yeah, that's how it kind of. And also, like I mute everyone who I don't. I mute notifications for everyone who I don't follow, so I don't like a lot of it doesn't get through to me too.
Mhm.
But I did have to like privatize my Instagram though, because like there were a lot of people just like blowing it up. And I'd say like the best way I can compare it, like being in that sort of sandstorm, is like it's like if someone like if like prank called you every 5 minutes or something, because you're getting that notification, right? And like your phone's buzzing every time. Um, Especially, yeah, like if someone's trying to message you or something. And like I don't really take it offense, it's just kind of annoying, you know? It's like what if someone just started
Yeah.
like it's like if you're stuck in that group chat, right? And you're not on your phone that moment, your phone's just like buzzing, 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 the same thing. So yeah. Instead it's people you don't know and you don't really care about. Yeah.
And then I've got to get a little local with you here. Obviously, we cover South Florida sports.
Mhm.
In your poll, in difference to USF and Memphis, I'm just personally curious about this. The actual people, of course, USF is 24, Memphis is 23. You don't even have them in your just missed. I'm just curious as to what the process, more so about USF, because
Yeah.
personally, I don't necessarily personally understand the argument for Memphis as of current,
I don't either.
but
Something we can agree on, though.
Yeah, yeah. The Memphis thing I really don't understand, because if we're going to treat Arkansas the way we've been treating them in terms of them as a quality win or a quality loss, depending on who they played this season, then why are we treating it completely different when Memphis plays them? That's the part I don't totally get. Um, and I'm not going to pretend I've watched every second of Memphis football, but like, I just don't get it. Like, I mean, I don't know how you can watch. I don't know. I have just trouble believing how you can watch. I don't know. Pick your team, Nebraska, and be like, yeah, they're definitely worse than what we've seen from Memphis this season. I don't know. I don't. When you look at resume, quality of players, all resume, watching the games, all that sort of stuff, right? So, I don't know. As for like, yeah, as for South Florida, like it definitely got more interesting when Florida beat Texas this week, right?
Right?
But
certainly.
then again, like how good is Texas in the first place, right? So yeah, now the
Not
game
that
was on
great,
the road.
apparently.
They won, yeah, yeah. And granted, Florida played way better against Texas than they did against South Florida. And South Florida gets blown out by Miami, but that's not a big deal at all because it was on the road and they were supposed to get. I mean, when you're on the road like that and you're not like considered a top 10 team, you're probably supposed to get blown up by the number one team in the country, right? Like if we're running by that logic. So a lot of it kind of comes down to what do you think about Boise State, right? Um, and kind of a shaky team. But then again, like they beat them out. They beat them better than probably Notre Dame did, and Notre Dame that game was at home against Notre Dame. So South
My
Florida is kind of
mind.
an
I was
interesting
just
Yeah, I was
about,
going
I
to
team.
was,
ask you that
Yeah,
next.
I was
yeah.
just about to ask you.
Yeah, yeah. So so it's kind of interesting, right? And I have Notre Dame way higher, but that's not really because of the Boise State game as much as it is like Texas and Penn State losing this week. That's why a bunch of teams moved up 2 spots without anything happening. And two, that was because like again 3-point loss to Miami. 1 point loss to Texas A&M. That's my number 1 team, my number 3 team, respectively.
Mhm.
So like, there's no case that Notre Dame to me is below South Florida. No offense, but but see, there's just not really a case. Especially with the Miami head-to-head, but it is. But like, yeah, should they be in the top 25? Like, I don't have a big problem with it, and even if they didn't technically make my just miss, doesn't mean there's just like one result away or a couple of things happening away to put them in my top 25. So, like, I don't have, like, out of all the teams that I left out, I probably have a weaker case to leave them out than many other teams, if not most of the teams. I just wasn't quite willing to put them like ahead of like Penn State and Texas, when I know the highs of Penn State and Texas is that they lose one score games to top 5 teams in the country. When we saw
Mhm.
Miami play a top 5 team in the country, and granted it was on the road, but it was quite frankly, it was a curb stomping. So like, I guess there's that comparisons point with Texas and Penn State. And if we're leaving out Texas and Penn State, which a lot of people would join me in that, which kind of surprised me, honestly.
Surprised
I'm
me
not going to
too.
put them ahead of those teams. Yeah, I'm not going to put them ahead of those teams, at least. So I don't know. Like, yeah, like just missed is like 26 and 27. You put more thought into it than 20 and 29, but yeah, that's the way I would kind of justify that. But I don't have like a fantastic reason. I don't feel as like vindicated on that than I do with some other teams that are in the poll and aren't, like Memphis, who we just talked about.
Mhm. And then feel free to not answer this. I'm sure you don't follow South Florida and North Texas football very closely, but
I try.
that obviously for us group of fibers is a massive game as far as the college football playoff goes, as far as that goes. I'm not asking you to Nostradamus, but I am. Where do you see in that game? Do you see anything interesting? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, North Texas, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like they just keep on scoring points, right? They're like this point
They
machine,
have the
right?
5th highest scoring offense in the country. I think it's
Yeah,
43 points a game
so
right now.
yeah, which is impressive. But South Florida has those athletes on defense, so that's gonna be interesting to watch. Yeah, I mean, if they win that game, and especially if you look at the resume a little bit more closely, that could be enough to shoot them in, depending on what happens around the country, and also depending on what happens to the teams that they've already played, right? Um, like if Florida wins again, that would help their
Mhm.
South Florida's case, right? Because then I would show that's an even stronger win, because they beat an SEC team that not only beat Texas but has another SEC win. Just for example, so, or say Boise State, like, has another good win. So like, I don't know, like a lot of this stuff is dependent on other things that happen around the country. But I think if they beat North Texas this week, you got a much easier shot, because like out of all the better shot, because out of all the group of 5 teams, like, they probably have the best resume. Yeah, they're number one of my group of 5 teams. Like, if I had to rank them right now, they're probably number 1, South Florida, because I can't really make the case for anybody else. James Madison's kind of interesting. I've been kind of like looking at them a little bit, but they also lost to Louisville, who I don't love. Um, I'm trying to think of what, like, Tulane, but I mean, Tulane getting blown out by Ole Miss definitely took the wind out of their sails, and I don't think,
Mhm.
and I don't think Ole Miss is as good as Miami. So, and I've watched Ole Miss, quite a bit of Ole Miss. I mean, the LSU literally played them last week. I was there. So, yeah, I think South Florida right now is the top G5 team for me. And if they beat North Texas, they've got a shot. They definitely have a shot.
Yeah, I have found and maybe you'll agree, I found the group of 5 conversation really interesting, because I feel like early in the season it was all South Florida. You beat Boise State and then you go to the Swamp and you win, and that was crazy.
Hmm.
But the conversation has switched to Memphis and North Texas. Obviously, Memphis has the win over Arkansas, which, like,
Arkansas
did they
also gave them that
did they
game
win
on a
that game,
platter.
or did Arkansas lose it?
Yeah, Arkansas lost the game. Let's be clear here. Like they had the ball. If he just doesn't fumble, they win the game. As simple as that. Yeah. So.
And then North Texas's strongest win, it comes 2 weeks ago against Army. I guess 3 weeks ago actually against Army, in overtime.
Yeah.
And so like maybe
Army
as
Army
an AP poll voter,
Kansas State, but Kansas State is awful. So like
it has been a very
Army's
interesting
better
year.
than we thought they were. I mean, Army's better than we thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to take a pretty big step back after last season, but I don't think Army is necessarily like Miami or Florida even. So yeah, exactly. It's just hard for these G5 teams to get into the poll for me when you're basing it off of the way I base off of where like strength of schedule and who you play and how you beat them or not is very important. It's just hard to like compare that to Virginia or Nebraska when they just have way more cracks at it against these better teams. So. And not saying, but like South Florida's put together, because of the way they scheduled heading into the year, they put together the best G5 resume out of all these teams.
Yeah, and then I kind of want to ask you, and this will be like my kind of last question. Looking at it here, it says 57 AP poll voters have that P4 affiliation, and 13 are affiliated with a group of 5 or some FCS teams that are overlapped. I kind of wanted to see and gauge your kind of feelings as to maybe some other voters having that bias for P4 affiliation. I know obviously people say SEC bias all the time, but there's obviously other leagues.
Yeah. The way the voting works out, it's more by state than like how many college teams are in your state. And now like there's 4 voters in Texas, but there's only 2 in Louisiana and there's only 1 in Massachusetts, for example. So like the way it's set up is I think again, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think it's more based on like how many colleges are in your state, or D1 schools, FBS schools, I should say, are in your state than anything else. So in terms of like the divide of like, teams covering, G5 compared to P5. Yeah, but like it's interesting though, right? Like you have to be a member of the AP, like you're the like the place that you work at has to be like has to use AP content and whatnot, right? Which is why you don't see certain Gannett papers, which is why you don't see like On3 Sports On3 Sports people voting for the poll as much, because they don't really actually. No, Brent McMurphy does vote for the poll and he's on 3, but I mean that was a requirement, I know, for a while. But yeah, like for a while it was like kind of hard to find enough voters for certain things, and and also like how many G5 reporters for a specific team are there in the country, right? Like that's also like just finding the people who are qualified to do it because of who they work for and because of who they work for, like that's a whole other issue, right? Like do you want to be just giving it to the guy who runs the fan site, or do you want to give it to like the real reporter? And you're going to give it to the real reporter, but there's just not a ton of like real reporters who are covering maybe not South Florida or Memphis, but like I don't know, maybe Wyoming. I'm just throwing a team out there, right? Or San Diego State. Do you think there's a dedicated San Diego State reporter or more than one who could potentially do it, right? So like you're kind of running. It's part of it's a numbers problem too. I guess I would just point that out if you're asking this question. But it's a very good question though, and it's something that they can definitely think about when it comes to putting these polls together.
Yeah, well, I think that's about all we have for you. But we really appreciate your time. It was nice to have you come on. I think a lot of people kind of want explanations, and those were, regardless of how you feel about the poll, foolproof explanations about what's going on. It's interesting to see inside the poll.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting as well. And thanks so much for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.